All right, so night before Georgia's first game of the season, Georgia and Tennessee Martin going to tee it up between the hedges on Saturday. It's been a long off season. A lot of tough events. Obviously, a tragic passing of two members of the Georgia football community. A lot of lawsuits involved. A lot of arrests and speeding. And although those things are still very important, Georgia moves forward now with playing football, which is something that most people watching this channel and watching this audience is going to care the most about. It has been a rough 2022 offseason, 2023, offseason. But Georgia returns as the number one team in the country, as the odds-on favorite to win the national championship by almost, three times more likely to win than anybody else, which is Alabama at their next closest. There's going to be it's also this offseason also seen the passing of Sonny Siler, who has brought the Uga family now into its 10th or 11th. I lose track after a while. Mascot Boom is on the sideline. Will be on the schedule to be on the sideline tomorrow. But it's been a turbulent offseason. But in that time, Georgia's revamped part of Sanford Stadium, almost a $70 million project on the south side of the stadium, which is going to have a lot of stuff. Gate 1 and Gate 9, that's going to be new. So make sure that you're prepared for that. And, there's grab-and-go concessions at Gate 6 and Gate 9. There's 2 entry points at Gate 9. So make sure you're going over to Dog Post to read all about all of that. We've got all of those details over there. Tennessee Martin comes in with 63 scholarships. They went 7-4 last year. They lost 65-24 at Tennessee. Their head coach has been there for 18 seasons. He was the first person to give Trey Scott a full-time job in 2013, so that's 10 years ago. But the Dawgs are 21-9 in their last 30 games, 2 national championships, are on a 17-game winning streak. The last time that happened, this will, I think this will break this, was 1945-1947, which was a great time at Georgia as well. But 27 regular season. I need to text my wife here as she's heading off somewhere, so I can hardly contain myself with my thoughts. That was a great time at Georgia. 27 regular season wins, and the longest home winning streak is 24 games. Georgia can possibly knock that out this year, at least tie it with. They're at 18 home wins right now. The most recent loss was to South Carolina in 2019. So 24 home game winning streak was from 1980 to 83. So there's a lot coming into this season, but really more than anything else, you got Carson Beck, you got the Dawgs heading into this thing. A lot of discussion about Carson Beck now. What will this season be like for Carson? What should we expect from an offensive line that returns 4 of 5 starters from the playoff last year? What should we expect from what could arguably be called the best wide receiver group in Georgia history? And they've had some really good receiving groups. I don't know that they have a superstar, but, Ladd McConkey's really good. Probably the second best tight end room that they've ever had after last year's. And then you have probably the best defense in the country with the best middle line or inside linebackers, a defensive line that's going to have to, adjust with Jalen Carter being gone, just like they did in the middle of the season this past year, and a secondary that is not fully formed yet, but I think we know where the players are there. So make sure you're checking out everything in Athens, downtown, our friends at Red Zone. That's going to be, that's going to be the destination. You've got a lot of time to get to Red Zone on Saturday. This is so late on Friday night. You will have already gone probably by then. But go hang out downtown in Athens. This is not just about Red Zone, but that is the one place you should go. I mean, They've got everything that you want there. And there's a lot of places to eat down there, by the way. You don't have to sit down to eat, although there are really good restaurants downtown in Athens. I frequent them a lot. I will give free plugs. Euro Wrap, The Place, Amici, all of these, that's just off the top of my head. So if I left you out, contact me and we can talk. But there's just so many good places to eat downtown and to take in the atmosphere of the first football game. People always talk about, what used to be so great. Y'all need to wake up right now and realize that these are the glory years at Georgia. And if you're not paying attention to that, then you're just, you're choosing not to pay attention, because this is a wonderful time at Georgia. And I don't think that the times are going to end. I mean, this is a program that I'm not saying I expect them to win the national championship. That is absolutely insanity to say that at all in any way. But I expect them to get to the playoff. If they don't get to the playoff, I would like to know why they didn't get to the playoff. So what happened along the way? But I do expect that. And coming into this, and these things change. Even from when I record this to now. Let me see these odds for the futures market. Yeah, Georgia's still sitting at just shy of 3 times a better bet, or 3 times odds than Alabama to win the national championship. If you had that walking out of the dome in 2017, if you had that walking out of the dome in 2021, I guarantee you, or 2018, all those tough losses at the dome, I guarantee you did not have that. This is the most pessimistic fan base. If South Carolina had this, they would be ecstatic. They would not know how to stop, crowing, for lack of a better term. If this were, Texas or any of those other schools that just have not gotten it together, Georgia is at the peak of where any program has been in the last 10 years. When you think about what Nick and Alabama accomplished in 2011 and 12, that was an amazing run. That is one of the best back-to-back seasons we've ever seen in college football. Okay. If you think about from that time forward, in 13, Florida State won it on the last, drive of the game. On 14, Ohio State won it with an upset of Alabama. That was a very hot Ohio State team that got crunched by Virginia Tech at the beginning of the season, if I'm not mistaken. In 15, Alabama came down to win it. That was a good Alabama team. That was not a great Alabama team. That was a really good Alabama team. In the 16 team of Clemson, that was a good team, a very good quarterback. They lost to somebody, I can't remember who it was, that was not good. So then you got into, then Georgia and Bama and their fight in 17. An Alabama team that did not win their division and went on to play into the playoff. I'm sure Auburn is still pissed off about that. I'm sure Kirby's still pissed off about that. A very good Clemson team in 18, an exceptionally good LSU team in 19, and then in 20, a very good Alabama team. We have had 5 teams in a row, 4 programs, 5 teams in a row that have been very good, that you could make the argument are the best teams of all time. To me, I think it's hard not to put LSU at the top of that list just because of how well Joe Burrow played. The 2020 Bama team, it's unfair, but I think the fact that they did not play a full season has to be taken into account. The fact that they went undefeated in a 10-game SEC season has to be taken into account. So all of those things, coincide and but I do think over time that this 22 Georgia team, people will start remembering this team being a lot more dominant than perhaps right now they're talking about. This is a team that won the national championship by more than 50 points. The most lopsided bowl game in history. Not the most lopsided national championship in history, where the best 2 teams play. The most lopsided bowl game in the history of Earth. The most lopsided bowl game in the history of Earth. Here's this. Look at this guy. That team and this program, I think really the argument for Georgia might not be the best team in college football history, but this 2-year run might be the best in the history of college football. And we're going to see if that continues in this third year because, although those 2 years have nothing to do with the third year will get credit for the first two if they win the national championship. But looking backwards before I look forward again, this team has beaten every single team that has played for the college football playoff. They have literally defeated them in the last 30 games. 2014 national championship game, Ohio State and Oregon. Well, they beat them both in 2022. The 2015 national championship game, Alabama and Clemson. They beat both of them in 2021. The same national championship in 16, they can't beat themselves, although they have proven that they did that in 2019 against South Carolina. They beat Alabama in 21. A year later, Clemson and Alabama, they defeated both of them. A year later, LSU and Clemson, they defeated LSU in 2022, obviously Clemson in 2021. And then Alabama in 2020 against Ohio State, they beat both those teams in 20 and then 22. And then these last 2 years, they cannot beat themselves. 20, they defeat Alabama literally in that game, and then they defeat Texas Christian, the only team to play for the national championship as well. And, if Michigan plays for it next year, then they will have defeated Michigan too. So this has been a spectacular run. These are the glory years. Don't think any other way, okay? This program, it's hard to think that they could have a better run or an equal run as Nick and Alabama have had over this 12-year time period. But that is actually possible the way that things are set up right now. Things change. Times change. Clemson's floating down. Michigan's floating up. Texas Christian, in theory, is floating down. LSU's floating up. We just don't, we don't know what the future of Florida State's going to be, what the future of Texas is going to be. Oklahoma's floating down, or they have been. Texas Christian floated up. So things come and go. Georgia is certainly more than floating up. They have become the power in their sport. They are, Oklahoma softball. They are, Gino Auriemma's UConn at any given moment. They are really good right now. And I expect complete and full domination over over Tennessee Martin. I would expect them to dominate Texas if they play them tomorrow too. But I think this is going to be a lopsided game. What you want to see in this game is decisive, quick decision-making from Carson Beck, completing balls in and out. We're not trying to throw the ball 30 times. Get in there, maybe go 16 of 20 or something like that, or 10 of 12. Get Brock Vandagriff in there. The defense should not allow more than 10 points. It just shouldn't happen, and not in this particular situation. And I would say that probably about Georgia playing Vanderbilt, Georgia playing, a lot of teams. So it's not exclusive to Tennessee Martin, but in September, Georgia's over/under for points. I'll go back and do the math a little bit, but it's not going to be a lot over 60. I think they play 5 games in that time, and 3 of them are games Georgia should totally dominate. So let's see what Georgia looks like. The most important thing in sports is not who you play, it's how you play. How are you playing? How are you shooting free throws? Are you driving the ball well in golf and basketball? Are you, if you're playing soccer, is everything crisp? Are you on the front foot? In football, how do you look? Are you dominant on defense? Are you hard to / nearly impossible to stop on offense? Who's going to be the kicker for the Dogs? Who's kicking off? What's going to be? What are the spots going to look like? And things are, Kirby said earlier this week that things are constantly getting worked out at Georgia, and he's proven that by rolling with Stetson in 21. That is the best example of it. But not just that. They win the national championship in 2021 if Broderick Jones doesn't come into that game in the second half. He replaced Warren Erickson. Warren Erickson's won 2 national championships. There's nothing bad about Warren Erickson. But was it the right call to go with Broderick Jones at that moment? Well, they scored a lot of points after that. I mean, was that the only reason? No. But my point is, they made an in-season change with Stetson Bennett. They made an in-game change with Broderick Jones. And, that mattered a lot in that season and in that game particularly. And from that point forward, Georgia, I don't think they allowed a point, but I still have not watched that game all the way through. Is that bad? But I mean, I lived it, but I mean, I've not watched that game to really dissect it and look at it hard. But there's going to be more moments like that. There's just not a certainty that Georgia will win all of those. There's not a certainty. But boy, they are going to be coming close to winning a lot of them. Thanks for watching. Thanks for seeing our friends at EkoPoly. Thanks for seeing our friends at Red Zone, our buddies at DoorDash. We can't do this stuff without them. It is not free to go stay in hotels and travel and go see, Dylan Raiola and people like that. We just can't. We don't just magically get to do that. So thank you to everybody for watching and those who are supporting us. Thank you.